The United States Supreme Court has just ruled against Donald Trump and his efforts to remove from office the head of the Office of Special Counsel, Hampton Dellinger, relatively well. He was appointed by President Biden, to serve out a 5-year term. He just got the appointment a couple of months ago to be the head of the Office of Special Counsel. That's a special creature. It's not what it sounds like. Both opposed Justice Roberts in allowing Hampton Dellinger to remain as the head of the Office of Special Counsel for at least 5 more days until the trial judge holds her hearing.
Trump lovers and haters, gather around. We're about to dive into the juiciest Supreme Court drama since the last time Trump was in legal hot water. In this video, we'll break down the ruling that's got Trump's toupee in a twist, explain why it matters, and throw in some jokes that'll make you snort laugh. Ready for some legal comedy gold? This has always blown my mind a little bit. 91% that watch this show regularly haven't subscribed. Could I ask you for a small favor before we start? If you like this show, what we do here, and want to support us, the free simple way you can do just that is by hitting the subscribe button. Well, folks, it looks like our favorite orange-tinted reality TV star turned wannabe dictator is having a rough week. Poor Donnie Diapers thought he could wave his tiny hands and make all his legal troubles disappear like one of his failed casinos. But the Supreme Court just burst his bubble faster than you can say kavfef.
It's not an office devoted to prosecution like Jack Smith's special counsel. It's a term of art being used for an organization that's responsible for things related to the enforcement of laws related to federal workers, an important position. But Donald Trump doesn't want Hampton Dellinger. He doesn't want independent watchdogs. He doesn't want anybody serving out a 5-year term on his watch. And so he fired him without cause. And the problem is, by firing him without cause, he violated the due process rights. Overly qualified for the position. If you ever wanted an ethical, stand-up, trustworthy fellow or woman to take that position, you want somebody that looks and acts exactly like Hampton Dellinger.
So here's the deal. Trump and his team of crack lawyers, and I do mean crack, claimed he had absolute immunity from prosecution for all the shenanigans he pulled while playing president. Yeah, you heard that right. Absolute immunity, like some kind of magical force field that protects him from consequences. I guess when you're living in a world of alternative facts, anything seems possible. But the Supreme Court wasn't buying what Trump was selling. They basically said, nah, not so fast, orange turd. And let me tell you, the arguments Trump's lawyers made were wilder than his hair in a windstorm. They actually stood there with straight faces and argued that presidents can do whatever they want. Sell nuclear secrets to the highest bidder? Sure. Order the assassination of political rivals? Why not? It's like they were pitching ideas for a bad action movie instead of presenting a legal case. The justices were probably sitting there thinking, are these guys high? Did they get their law degrees from Trump University? Because that's not how any of this works. Last time I checked, we lived in a democracy, not a monarchy, though I'm sure King Donald I has a nice ring to it in Trump's ears. You just know Trump is fuming right now. He's probably stress-eating hamburgers and guzzling Diet Coke like there's no tomorrow. Maybe he'll try to flush the ruling down the toilet like he did with those classified documents.
The way it works in court, a little bit of a legal breakout session, is if you have a temporary restraining order, which is only in place for a short amount of time, in this case, it's only in place for about 5 days, you wait until there's a preliminary injunction of one Hampton Dellinger, who ran in an emergency injunction and obtained a temporary restraining order from a federal court judge in the District of Columbia, at which time then the courts of appeal have jurisdiction. They generally don't have jurisdiction over temporary restraining orders.
Good luck with that, buddy. This isn't one of your gold-plated toilets that can handle your oversized ego. But hold on to your MAGA hats, folks, because here comes the big reveal. The Supreme Court, in all its wisdom, ruled that presidents can indeed be prosecuted for unofficial acts. Sorry, Donnie, looks like you can't hide behind the Oval Office curtains anymore. Your get-out-of-jail-free card just got revoked faster than your Twitter account. Now, I know what you're thinking. But what about all those other presidents who did bad things? Well, here's the kicker. The court made it clear that this isn't about partisan politics. They're not out to get Trump specifically, no matter what he tweets at 3 a.m. This is about upholding the fundamental principle that no one is above the law, not even a guy with a weird obsession with gold and everything. So what does this mean for our favorite former president? Well, it means his legal troubles are far from over. In fact, they're just getting started. Trump's facing a whole buffet of potential potential charges, from election interference to mishandling classified documents. It's like a choose-your-own-adventure book, but instead of treasure, you might find yourself in an orange jumpsuit that actually matches your skin tone. And let's not forget the timing of all this. The court's decision comes just as Trump is gearing up for another run at the White House. Talk about awkward campaign slogans. Vote for me, I might be in jail. Doesn't quite have the same ring as Make America Great Again, does it? Looks like our favorite orange-tinted reality TV star turned wannabe dictator is facing a new nemesis, and this time, it's not just his own reflection in the mirror.
First stop on the train is Chief Justice Roberts. Why? But not just because he's the chief of the Supreme Court, but because any appeal that comes out of the DC, the Trump administration, by claiming that the Supreme Court has power under what is referred to as the All Writs Act, but that's very narrow in application. It doesn't apply to the facts of this case. Appellate courts goes firstly to Chief Justice Roberts on an emergency application. He could have denied this on his own, but he decided, I guess, anything related to Trump, he's going to throw it back to the entirety of the 9 justices of the panel.
Enter Hampton Dinger, the guy who's about to make Trump wish he could fire people as easily as he did on The Apprentice. So who's this Hampton Dinger character? Well, he's the new kid on the block that Biden decided to put in charge of the Office of Special Counsel. Now, I know what you're thinking. Office of Special Counsel sounds about as exciting as watching paint dry. But trust me, this is where the fun begins. Trump, being the mature and level-headed leader we all know and love, decided he didn't like this Dinger guy. Maybe it was the name. I mean, Dinger does sound like something you'd call your neighbor's annoying dog, so what does our grumpy Trumpy do? He tries to fire Dinger faster than you can say cough F. But hold on to your MAGA hats, folks, because Dinger wasn't going down without a fight. You see, this guy's got a 5-year term, and he's not about to let some spray-tanned, comb-over sporting ex-president kick him to the curb. It's like when you try to cancel your gym membership, but they keep charging you anyway. Except this time, it's democracy that's getting a workout. Now, I can just imagine Trump sitting in Mar-a-Lago, frantically Googling, "Can I deport someone to Greenland?" between bites of hamburgers. Sorry, Donnie, but it turns out you can't just kick people out of office because they're not in your fan club. Who knew running a country was harder than running a casino into bankruptcy? Poor Trumpy must be so confused. It's like he's playing a game of Monopoly where he can't just flip the board when he starts losing. He's probably wondering why everyone keeps talking about due process when all he wants is do what I say process. But here's where it gets really juicy. Dinger, being the clever cookie he is, went to court faster than Trump rushes to the buffet line. And guess what? He got himself a temporary restraining order. That's right, folks. Trump got legally cock-blocked from firing Dinger. It's like a soap opera, but with less attractive people and more legal jargon. Now, you might be thinking, surely the Supreme Court will side with Trump, right? Wrong. The Supreme Court, in all its infinite wisdom, decided that Dinger gets to keep his job for now. Sorry, Donald. Looks like you're fired. Catchphrase doesn't work so well in the real world. But wait, there's more. Turns out Dinger's got some serious legal street cred. His mom was a big shot at the University of North Carolina's School of Government, and his dad was a former Solicitor General of the United States. Talk about family dinners. While most of us were arguing about who got the last slice of pizza, the Dinger family was probably debating constitutional law. Trump's legal team, bless their hearts, tried to argue that a president should be able to fire anyone they want, anytime they want, because nothing says democracy like unchecked power, right? But the courts weren't buying it. They were all, have you guys heard of this little thing called due process? It's like Trump's lawyers skipped that day in law school, or maybe they just figured rules are for losers and Diet Coke is for closers. Even Chief Justice Roberts, who usually stays out of these spats, decided to weigh in. He was like, "We don't usually mess with temporary restraining orders, but this case is spicier than Trump's Twitter feed, so we're gonna hang on to it for a bit." Translation: this is too good to pass up, folks. Well, folks, it looks like our favorite orange-tinted troublemaker is about to learn a new phrase that'll make him wish he'd stuck to his usual vocabulary of bigly and Kfifa. What 2 words are giving Donnie Diapers more nightmares than Mueller investigation? Drumroll, please. It's due process. Now picture this, Trump in a courtroom trying to explain why he should be allowed to fire people faster than he tweets. His legal team probably argued something like, hey, presidents are like toddlers with nuclear codes. They should get to do whatever they want. But the Supreme Court wasn't buying it. They basically said, hold up, grumpy Trumpy. Ever heard of due process? I can just imagine the gears slowly turning in Trump's head as he tries to wrap his mind around this concept. Due process? Is that like golf course? Do I own one of those? Sorry, Donald, but it's not something you can slap your name on and turn into a failed business venture. Let's take a moment to imagine Trump trying to explain due process to his supporters at one of his rallies. He'd probably say something like, "Folks, the Democrats have invented this thing called due process. It's a terrible thing, really bad stuff. They're saying I can't just point at people and yell, 'You're fired,' anymore. Can you believe it? It's a witch hunt, I tell you." Maybe we should explain it to him with pictures and very small words. Listen, Donald, due process is like when your mommy makes you eat your vegetables before you get dessert. You might not like it, but it's good for you and everyone else. But here's where things get really juicy. Justice Sonia Sotomayor, who's clearly not a fan of our orange friend, had some choice words in her dissent. She argued that the ruling makes the president now a king above the law. Ouch, that's gotta sting for a guy who probably dreams of golden crowns and loyal subjects. And just when you thought this legal circus couldn't get any wilder, the court threw in another twist. They said that even actions within the outer perimeter of a president's official responsibilities are immune from prosecution. But here's the kicker. Only if they're not manifestly or palpably beyond his authority. Try saying that 5 times fast after a few Diet Cokes, Donald. Now, I know what you're thinking. Manifestly or palpably beyond his authority. That sounds like a fancy way of saying, don't do anything too crazy, Mr. President. But for Trump, that's like telling a fish not to swim or a Twitter bird not to tweet. So what does all this legal mumbo jumbo mean for our favorite reality TV star turned wannabe dictator? Well, it looks like the Supreme Court is trying to thread the needle between presidential power and the rule of law. They're basically saying, look, Mr. President, you can't just do whatever you want. There are these things called rules and even you have to follow them. Shocking, I know. But here's the real kicker. This ruling complicates the whole understanding of due process when it comes to presidents. It's like the Supreme Court handed Trump a get-out-of-jail-free card, but it's written in legalese so complicated that even his expensive lawyers are scratching their heads. Alright folks, buckle up for a wild ride through Trump's favorite fantasy land. It's called the Unitary Executive Theory, and it's basically a legal excuse for presidents to act like they're above the law. Imagine if Trump had unlimited power. Yikes! He'd probably try to gold plate the entire country, or make it illegal to have hands bigger than his tiny mitts. Now some big-brained legal eagles actually take this theory seriously. It's like they want to turn the president into a king with a spray tan and a bad comb over. Can you picture it? Trump sitting on a golden throne, tweeting royal decrees like, "I hereby declare McDonald's the official food of America," or "all mirrors must make me look 50 pounds lighter and 30 years younger." Oh, but here's the kicker. This isn't just some crazy dream cooked up in Trump's McDouble-addled brain. Some Supreme Court justices actually buy into this nonsense. It's like they skipped the checks and balances day in law school and went straight to how to create a dictator 101. Justice Sonia Sotomayor, bless her heart, tried to knock some sense into her colleagues. In her dissent, she warned that this ruling could turn the president into a king above the law. I mean, come on. We already had to deal with Trump acting like a toddler throwing a tantrum in the Oval Office. Do we really want to give him a crown and scepter too? Sotomayor didn't stop there. She laid out some pretty scary scenarios that could happen if presidents get too much power. We're talking assassinations, coups, and who knows what else. It's like she peeked into Trump's dream journal and saw his ultimate wish list. But wait, it gets even crazier. Critics of this theory say it makes a mockery of the whole idea that no one is above the law. It's like the Constitution is a big old rule book, but the Unitary Executive Theory is trying to add a footnote that says, except for the guy with the weird hair and orange skin, he can do whatever he wants. Now, before you start packing your bags for Canada, there's a tiny glimmer of hope. The Supreme Court didn't fully buy into this wacky theory. They put some limits on presidential power, thank goodness. It's like they looked at Trump and said, yeah, we're gonna need to put some child locks on the nuclear codes. So what does all this legal mumbo jumbo actually mean? Well, it's kind of like giving a toddler a water gun instead of a fire hose. Sure, they can still make a mess, but at least they can't flood the whole neighborhood. Trump might think he's got a get out of jail free card, but it turns out it's more like a maybe get out of jail if you're really lucky card. Well folks, it looks like our favorite orange turd has been flushed down the legal toilet once again. The Supreme Court's ruling is basically telling Trump, sorry buddy, but you can't just wave your tiny hands and make the law disappear. Maybe it's time for Donnie Diapers to find a new hobby, one that doesn't involve courtrooms, indictments, or trying to convince people he's above the law. But let's be real, expecting Trump to learn something from this is like expecting a goldfish to learn calculus. He'll probably just throw a tantrum, tweet some nonsense in all caps, and blame it on the deep state or whatever boogeyman he's invented this week. Who knows, maybe he'll surprise us all and actually grow up. Nah, who are we kidding? This is Trump we're talking about. He's about as likely to change as he is to admit his hair isn't real. Buckle up, folks. This legal roller coaster is far from over.